Night Owls to the Book Club After Dark podcast, an inviting moonlit podcast. I'm your host, Danny.
And I'm Michelle. We review fantasy, romantasy, dark romance, and thriller novels.
All things enchanting, intriguing, suspenseful, and maybe a little spicy.
Each episode features intimate discussions on captivating stories, fan theories, and more. And here's your content warning. This podcast contains mature themes and discussions that may not be suitable for all audiences. Episodes include explicit language and descriptions of mature romance, as well as depictions of violence and other intense subject matter. This podcast is rated R for mature audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
Yep, and going forward from here, this is your spoiler warning for Road of Bones, which is book 1 of the Ashen Series by Demi Winters. So consider this your spoiler warning.
Let's get cozy because the best stories are told after dark.
Oh, Michelle, the way you're going to like this drink of the episode, let me tell you about it. Okay, tonight we have a iced Roa. Okay, so Roa is the main beverage, which I think is kind of like a coffee-ish version, but it's mentioned so many times that it's spiced. Right. So this is an iced version of that because we live in Florida. It's hot as fuck outside. So it was like, it's still hot outside and we're in the 90s now here in May and it's sizzling. It's pretty
It
crispy
was like
out there.
80.
Yeah. Well, today wasn't too bad, but I just couldn't do like a hot drink. I was like, we're not. This is like a Norway-esque Viking village where these people live and it's really cold. And I was like, I like that for you all. And I'm glad you guys have the hot spiced Roa for you guys to give a pick me up. But we need something nice down here. So that's what we've got. So this is 75% chai tea. And then with like a splash, probably like a quarter of cold brew. And then I just top this off with a non-dairy cold foam topper. This flavor is just like the plain one, but you can do like whatever you want, right? Ways that you can add alcohol to this. I would add Tito's to this. I think that would be good. If you want like the spiced rum, I think that would taste really good here too. Or you can do the non-alcoholic version like I have right here and enjoy. So you just put the cold foam on the top, let that kind of go down in. I didn't add any other sweetener other than that because I feel like the chai tea already has like quite a bit of that spice. And yeah, and it's like it's a little sweet too. But the spiced Roa is mentioned throughout this series many, many times as like the drink. So when I was thinking of Road of Bones, I was like, we need like a chai tea. We need something that has like a kick to it. That's a tea. So yeah, so we've got the Roa, iced Roa right here. Cheers.
I love that. A dirty chai has been like my go-to for a long time, especially since it's not like too heavy on the caffeine, even though it gives you like just enough of a caffeine boost. And I have to watch my caffeine intake. But yeah, that sounds delicious.
It's really good, really easy to make at home. If you're local to Florida, Publix. So I just get the like pre-made. It's in the non-refrigerated section, but is it Tazo tea? It's the liquid Tazo. I'm not sure how it's pronounced, and it just comes into like the quart box, kind of the same way you get your chicken broths or whatever. It's like in a container like that, and then I just pop that in the fridge, and you can add it to any cold brew in the morning when you get going before work or whatever. And I usually just like add it in for that spiced anyway. And then I was like, what is she trying to describe here when I kept reading it? Because they kept mentioning, because it wasn't coffee. It definitely had, but it wasn't tea. It was its own thing. And so I kind of messed around with the recipe for it. And I was like, I really feel like it needs to be very chai forward. It needs to have like 75% at least chai. You want some coffee in there? Great. Good for you. But it needs to be like mostly chai forward. So there you go. There's your iced Roa. I'll be drinking and sipping on that throughout today's episode.
I've actually had that Tazo tea or Tazo, however you say it. Target also has them, and you can get like more sweet. You can get less sweet. I think they have like a vanilla, and so like you can like add variety to this drink.
I just have the plain.
Yeah, so you can obviously if you have like like a syrup or something like coffee syrup, you can add like I feel like you can customize this drink as much as possible. Obviously, in Road of Bones, they didn't have like, a whole Starbucks stand of like, I want salted caramel spray. So theirs wasn't as customizable, but you, as the listeners and followers at home, obviously can customize this as much as you can. So I love it. I'm a dirty chai person. It's spicy, just like how we like our books. And yeah.
Exactly. All right, so let's get started with talking about this series. So we're just now going to be starting this Ashen series. And again, we're not doing the full deep dive that we've done historically, which is really kind of odd for us, but we're going with it. So go with us as we kind of change our episode guidelines and how we're going to do this. We're going to first, this episode, talk to you about how the setup of the series is. Then we'll give you our star ratings, overarching thoughts of it, pepper ratings, etc. We'll go a little bit more into some discussion questions, kind of like a broad book club-esque style questions. So if you've ever been part of an in-person book club, oftentimes they'll have the discussion-based questions. We're going to kind of go that route today. And then we'll do a down the rabbit hole segment, which is going to be historical today. So I think you're going to like that, Michelle. And we'll wrap today's episode with our mystery Q&A and talk about our next book or interview or whatever else we have for you, which I know what that is, but we're going to talk about it at the end. So that'll be today's episode and kind of the new way that we're going to be talking about books going forward. Very excited about this new format. I think you're going to really enjoy it. So yeah, so let's get started.
Yeah, let's get into it. So we're going to start with our star ratings. If you have the guide, you can find it on our socials, or we've also talked about it in the last episode, but it's a 5-star guide. And I'm obviously going to rate this a 5-star. You have your complex characters. You have multiple complex characters. Like even our side characters have very complex backgrounds. And so the fact that she was able to build, she as in Demi Winters was able to build so much in the character category. But really what got me was the unique setting and a very intricate plot. So we have like a Viking-esque story here, which if you've read any more recent romantasy or just fantasy, a lot of it kind of steers with like Fae, which is more like Irish, kind of like, or like Roman and Greek. So we don't get a lot of this Viking Nordic
or English.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that this whole like, I was thankful for the audiobook for being able
do
to
we have
like,
accents?
No. We don't, but we have a lot of descriptions and we have a lot of pronunciations. That's what the word I'm looking for. She pronounces a lot of the words, which on page I go like if I go over a word because there are silent letters and I'm like, what is this? Because I did both for this one. I did audiobook and I did like the Kindle version of it. So the audiobook helps with pronunciation. Not my favorite audiobook just because it's only one narrator, but I'm not reading the audiobook. I'm reading the actual book. So it's just the setting and the fact that people are like, the entire adventure is literally going down a road or up a road if you're really like looking at it. And it seems so simple, but there's so much that happens with the stories and the setting and the characters, the multiple points of view that's going on. So this is
my favorite.
Right. And this is easily just 5-star with me. Emotional connection to multiple characters. It's not just like our main ones. It's not just Scylla and it's not just Ray Axe Eyes, which his name, I was like, what the fuck is Axe Eyes? But when they were like, well, when he stares at you like axes, I'm like, oh, okay. So we're being literal here. Like we're literal people, which is very true Viking-esque. They are literal people. And yeah, I was, as soon as I started this, which I started this book really new postpartum, and I realized very quickly that I wasn't in the right headspace. So I decided I'm going to put this down for now, and I'm going to come back to it when I'm in the right headspace, just because it's so complex and really new postpartum. I needed fluff. I needed like cotton candy that I can just get through and store. Yeah. So about 6-7 weeks postpartum when I restarted this book, and I'm so glad that I did, because if I kept trying to push through it, I might have been like, no, this is way too much for me. So I was in the right headspace. My second go around is very involved. Again, for like, you're literally just going down the road, but it is a very involved and very complex storyline. So easy 5 for me. Once I re-picked it up, I was hooked. So that's mine. What about yours, Danny? What's your star review?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an easy 5. What I really hated about this series is that books 4 and 5 are not out yet. So This is the problem. But what's great is you have 3 books that are released so far of this, what's going to be the Ashen series, a 5-book series. You also get a 2.5 book series with my favorite side character, which we're going to talk about more here in a little bit, but who's the side character of The Road of Bones. She gets her own book, and I'll talk more about that. But points of view. So rarely these days, especially in book 1, do we get multiple points of view. And I think Demi Winters did this so well. I could hear them differently in my head for every character. And that's an impressive feat for any author to be able to achieve, especially in book 1. And I think she did an excellent job of really bringing us through this, seemingly simplistic plot line with, oh, she's going to travel down a road. Like, what? Okay, but what about Vampire Deer? Holy shit. If you go to her page and you start looking at some of this character art that she has, demiwinters.com, you can pull up her character art and her books and her map, a more detailed version of the map, which if we've listened to Danny at all, this is what I did immediately. I was like, this Kindle map is absolute garbage. We're throwing this in the trash. We need to go to the website straight away. So pulled up my phone, pulled up the map, looked at it in detail, was zooming in. I'm like, where's this road? Where are we going? What are we doing? So there's a really nice map on her website as well. So 5 stars for creating a world that was historically kind of drawn to something, but tied it in a way that was completely unique, something I've never read before, something new, fresh, different. I thought that the way that this has gone so far has been, especially the series as a whole. So speaking from what I've read so far, I can't rate the entire series yet. It's not available, but I've read the first 3.5 already. So I have actually finished Dawn of the North, which is the most recent release. Michelle hasn't gotten quite that far, but overall, I would say that totally it's a 5-star. Only thing that you need to mentally prepare for versus other series we've read is it's a slow burn. It is not going to be heavy on the spice, and that's totally okay. I think we'll talk about that more in a minute when we get into the spice rating, but overarching, I'm giving it a 5. I'm giving the whole series so far a 5. I feel like specifically what it hit on from our chart of the things that we're talking about is the characters are very complex. We get that from multiple points of view. The setting's immersive. I'm on the road with her. I am her. Scylla and I are tied together. We're one. We're going down this road. The plot is intricate. It's original. It's different. You have an emotional connection. I was emotionally connected to, like, I was like, what's going to happen next? What's going on with this girl? How are we going to get ourselves out of this situation? And I absolutely couldn't put it down. So for all those reasons, that checks all the boxes for us on our star guide for 5 stars. So I feel like this series as a whole, if you haven't read it yet or haven't picked it up yet, you're truly missing out. The whole series, I know. Which book are you at, Michelle? Which number are you in?
I'm still finishing up Kingdom of Claw. So I'm about, I'm about 60% through Kingdom of Claw right now.
Okay, fair enough.
So that's the second book.
Right. And we'll talk about that again. So layout for how we're going to do going forward. We're going to do Road of Bones. Then you're going to have an interview episode. Then we're going to do Kingdom of Claw. And we're kind of going to go through this series in a very high level. But so that was my star rating. What about your spice rating? What did you think?
So spice, I'm going to say it's a 3. It's a 3 pepper. If we look at our guide, it's moderate intensity with 1 to 2 chapters of spice. So there's only one chapter of spice. There's more tension in this book. Like Danny said, it's definitely a slow burn. And the spice is very relevant. I think what was more important, because the spice scene was between Scylla and Jonas, right? And that was integral to their plot line. And they needed to be together for all the other shit to go down and create this whole villain era out of Jonas, which we'll talk more in a little bit more about our feelings about Jonas and his whole villain arc. But that was really important for Jonas and for Scylla, for both them to feel this level of betrayal. So they had to have that intimate moment, because if they never had sex, then the betrayal with Ilias dying wouldn't have been as, I wouldn't say it would have been as important, but it wouldn't have been as hard for them. I feel like, because obviously Jonas has like this whole level of betrayal. That's his brother. So it's important to the plot. We could have done it off page. I think it could have been done off page and been totally fine to the story.
Like
but I think it's, yeah, I like reading spice. So I was happy it was there. It was pretty standard. The spice was standard. It was on page. They had sex. There's nothing too fancy about it. It was pretty vanilla in terms of, or, vanilla chai, if you want to go with the theming of the drink. But that was about, So that's my spice rating. What about you?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the 3 pepper is accurate. I think we will kind of continue to maintain that through the series. It may increase, it may decrease. I don't know. Stay tuned. But for this book, for Road of Bones, I definitely think 3 is good. It is relevant to the plot. It's not the main story, though. I do think that you could create some other form of catastrophic betrayal and maybe still feel an impact, but it works with the story that there's a romantic piece, and probably why we get into the subgenre of romantasy. But I still think this is absolutely a fantasy series. And romantasy is a side part of the overarching whole story here. And it's an important element, but it's not, and you'll see this as you complete the series, that it's important and it's definitely a factor, but just like any complex and dynamic relationship and individual, it's not their whole story. And it's most certainly not the whole story of these books either. But yeah, I would agree. 3 peppers for sure. It is important and relevant. There's borderline 4, but not because it goes too far. But I think we're going to get into the 4s as we go into the next books. So we'll see how we go.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yes. I do think the spice level goes up the further into the series that we go. But book 1, I agree with you that we're at a 3 pepper.
Okay. All right. So let's kind of transition a little bit and let's talk a little bit more about the storyline and the setting. So the way I read a 1-star review. It's like it said we're literally on a road, and that is it. That was their 1-star review. We're going on an adventure. And the way I'm like, so is Tolkien. If you read The Hobbit, it's like, let's go on an adventure and we're just going down a road and that's it. And so much shit happens on this road. So I truly loved the simplistic nature of, we're going on a fucking road and we're going on a journey. And this journey is, a physical one. It's also like, an emotional one. But Demi Winters made that so simplistic and was able to build off of that and build off of what is next to the road. So we're not going to like different kingdoms, and we're not hopping around this, that, and the other, going across the seas and whatnot. We're on a road. There are some woods, and there are different creatures, and she at one, when she's taking her little leaves. So we have these skull leaves, however you pronounce it, because I am not Nordic, and it kind of makes her. Obviously, it's a drug. It's a hallucinogenic. And, like, the way I was like, oh, there's a little girl there. And then realizing, like, she's taking, like, a hallucinogenic drug. I'm like, oh, the girl is not there. The girl represents something else. And, she was able to build off of the simplistic element of a road and add more detail and more
like psychological
character development. Yeah. So I know that was a lot of the 1-stars that I like skimmed through, because when I looked at Goodreads, I'm like, there's no way they're 1-stars. And there's like,
I know,
a lot of 1-star reviews with this book was reviewed a lot, but there was a lot more than I would thought there would be 1-star reviews. And a lot of it's like, it's too simple. I'm on a road. What the fuck just happened? Which
and
not
a lot of
a review,
DNF'd it.
Not a review.
Yeah,
exactly. That's not a review.
They DNF'd it, and I'm like, you didn't even give it a chance. So you can't sit here and say, oh, like, I'm not hooked from the start because, there isn't blood and gore and all kinds of stuff. I mean, even though like her dad dies like right at the beginning, but okay, sure, there's nothing that's happening. I can't.
And she takes on like this identity to like protect herself, and she has to pull like this whole like, Jedi mind trick on these people, being like, I am useful. I can cook things. Let me go forage and cook things.
Literally. Like, I have value. I'll cook you things. Give me a chance here. Right. So the storyline, I agree with you. There's a lot to this. So going off the storyline, I think Demi Winters has been and is extremely intentional with the series. You can tell how much she loves it, how much time she's put into it, how much she's dedicated to this. A little bit about Demi Winters. She's a Canadian author. She's got on Goodreads this series, book 1, the Ashen Series is the name of the series, has a 4.22 Goodreads star rating, which is good for 70,000 reviews, 69,123 ratings, almost 10,000 reviews on here. And the way that it's described is Scylla Nordvig is running for her life. The Queen of Isildur has sent warriors to bring Scylla to Sunnavik, where death awaits her. When her father is killed, his last words set Scylla on a perilous quest to travel the treacherous Road of Bones, a 1,000-mile stretch that's haunted by warbands, creatures of darkness, a mysterious murderer, and get to Copa, where a shield house awaits her. So after barely surviving the forced stretch of road, Scylla sneaks into the supply wagon, which we talked about already, to get in with the Blood Axe crew. You know, sounds super safe. And she knows that she is not going to make it through the Road of Bones as a young woman with literally nothing else to protect her to get there on her own. And so there's also what I thought was really interesting is you have the Galdor, which are like the magical people, and these people that have magical inclination that they kind of get through a little bit of that briefly. And so there's magic involved. There's these creatures that are involved. You have all the classic like big parts of romantasy and fantasy that you always have, which is, you know, the magic system, the creatures that are going along, the fantasy elements of this character that has to fight through a way to save herself, and ultimately maybe more than that. We don't really find out the whole pieces of that in Road of Bones because it's book 1, but the series as a whole really gets incredibly complex. There's a huge amount. I think one other piece that is interesting is that we have a lot of diversity in this series, and there's a lot of representation in this series. My favorite side character, so we'll talk about main characters first, but as far as diversity, the one big thing that I really loved about this book series is that the characters are diverse. Ethnicities are all different here. You have representation that goes beyond that. You have representation as far as disabilities. You have all these different things that Demi Winters plays with very, very well to have inclusivity in these books. And I really loved that part of it. And not just for side characters. My favorite side character of this book gets her own 2.5 book where we really get a lot more of her. And I really love that. So we'll talk about that in a few minutes. But I like the map. I liked that in book 1, she kept it simple to be able to bounce off where we're going to start to go in the next books in this series. And I also liked multiple points of view. I think were game changers for this book in particular. And I think that they're incredible as you continue through the series. And I wish that more authors did it more. And that was one of the big reasons that I recommended this book to you right out of the jump. I was like, oh, look at all the multiple points of view. Because I feel like it just gives you such a level of depth that when you read so much romantasy like we do, it's so frequent that in book 1, it's only the female main character. And that's fine. It can be done, and it's been done well many times. But for me, sometimes I've read so much of it that I'm like, okay, I need more to hang on to. I would like to know more about this. Or sometimes the female main character is so naive that it's frustrating. And you're just like, oh, can you please, like, all right, we get it. You know, you've never done X, Y, and Z, you know, you're frailer than anything that is anybody's seen, or whatever the case may be. You're like, all right, I get it. Like, I need some more to hold on to. And I feel like this book does that very well. Those additional backstories and that additional points of view help to really build plot. And whoever edited this was fantastic as well. So they did a great job to the Demi Winters team for the Ashen series. It's great.
Yeah, no. And you mentioned ethnicity. So I like how she was also intentional with the development of the ethnicity of the Blood Axe crew, because they're literally all from different areas and they've kind of been hobbled together. And you don't really understand that entirely until you get to Kingdom of Claw. So where Ray kind of explains the path of the Blood Axe crew and like at what point he gathered each different character. So it gets more in depth on why, but it's not just, oh, we're just going to throw ethnicity in for the diversity's sake. It's actually very intentional and the map
Exactly.
and where they come from, at what point in their own timelines they join the crew too. So it's very, very in depth. So yeah, very, very intentional. We've said that multiple times, but very intentional. So let's go into favorite moments. And I'm going to let you tell me what your favorite moment is. I have a feeling we have kind of very similar favorite moments, but I want you to say what your favorite moment in this whole book was.
So one of my favorite moments and really favorite side characters who was, again, super dynamic and helped move plot was Skreda. So we have her storyline, and I love the moment when she finally actually dies, which is really terrible to say, but it's the moment when we have Scylla come into her own and we learn more about her Galdra. And this is something we're like leading up to this whole time. So Galdra meaning like her magic, right? So Skreda is really dynamic, complex person. She has given her whole life basically for this queen and kingdom that hates what she can do, but she ultimately talks to Scylla about this in this moment of her passing away. And I thought that that talked about the true nature of the system that they're in this complex world that they're in, and kind of started to align the pieces of what Scylla knew already, but didn't really have the full understanding of. And Scylla's like been getting stronger and stronger throughout this time. And I hated what happened with her and Jonas in the piece there where his brother dies and he blames the situation with her, and how, you know, Scylla just hasn't been forthright. And when Jonas finds this out, he's fucking furious. And I get it. And does he go about it the right way? We'll see as the books continue. But what I will say is that my favorite piece of this book, and what speaks to kind of why it's a 5, is you have two worlds kind of emerging when Skreda and Scylla, that ending actually finally occurs, is she's coming into her own power that we've seen build up for a while. And Skreda, who we've watched and had points of view from, the villain in this story, one of them, points of view from, has this really big, complex conversation that's incredibly short, but says so much. They're having this moment where she's like wheezing and she's passing away, and Scylla's pissed. She's like, I can't believe you betrayed your own kind. Look what you've done to the Galdra. How could you do this? How could you do all these things? And she makes this comment where she's this warrior. I mean, she's not. She's an incredibly powerful, strong woman. And she says her last words are, you see what they do to us. You see how they make us live. And it talks to like the last moments of her last dying breaths and talking about how when she passes, she actually looks like she's elated. Like she's relieved that this the weight has been taken off of her. And I just thought it was really beautifully written. And in pacing, she could have made that really quick and had like no moment and between them. But I think giving that pacing and Demi Winters writing it the way that she did, and it was careful, it was definitely cathartic to read. And also I felt like it closed the loop on whether she was still alive or not with certainty. And it gave us the conversation that I think that Skreda needed to have for a long time.
Right.
And it was complex, and I enjoyed it. That was my favorite part.
I think, and just tacking on to that, I think that also set up what it needed to for book 2, because book 2 gets more in the complexity of, Scylla finds out she has a sister and finds out her like real identity. She's not Scylla.
Yeah.
And you get more of Saga.
Dad's not her
Saga's
dad.
her sister. No.
Yeah.
So she understands this identity of herself, and that sets up for book 2. And like, of course I'm only on book 2, but I'm assuming for further on in the series and how the complexity of the political climate and like the queen and all those different sort of aspects of politics and government, it just gets really complex from there. And I think that conversation with Skreda had to happen to set up the further complexity of, 'cause they're not going to be on the road forever. They're not on the road forever. That's just where they start. And how they're going to figure out that dynamic and go through the whole power play. So yeah, that's a very important aspect, or that was a very important chapter in the story. Mine's the vampire deer. Mainly because, so obvious, it's a forest. There's a vampire deer. Like, what the heck? Vampire deer. There's also wolf spiders, which I'm very thankful that was not a big portion of the book because I'm tired of spiders. After Anathema and Eldritch, I'm done with them.
2.5. I'm just gonna say 2.5 and like not anything else.
Okay, yay.
So good luck to you.
Awesome, because they're still on the road. If it goes through Hekla's perspective, they're still on the road, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
Anyways, so with the vampire deer, it's not just because like, you know, she's attacking this vampire deer. What really was important to me in this interaction, because Ray is watching her, right? Ray is helping train her, not Jonas, which is her love interest at this point in time. Mm-hmm. It's Ray. And the way, you know, if you know anything about like Viking culture, is men are badass and women are badass. There's like not really as much of a sexism in their culture. All are fighters. And we see this here because Scylla's she hasn't been trained to be a fighter at all.
Right.
And Ray isn't going to treat her or baby her or like treat her any different than anyone on her crew or on his crew.
Yep.
And, you know, there was a point where, you know, she might not have made it. And Ray waits it out because he wants to see what she can do. But I think it's also, he believes she can be more. And that's what a good leader is. They believe that their people can be more than what they think they can be. And they will let them do that. And Ray could have easily stepped in early on and been like, kill the vampire deer. But that wouldn't have been beneficial to her in developing her power and believing in her. So this is where also I was like, Ray is going to be the MMC. It's not Jonas. This is the point. Also, I'm like, yeah, somehow we're gonna switch from Jonas to Ray, and there's already been building tension up into this point because he like pretends he hates her, but we love the brooding guy, and we know that's the one we want, is the brooding one, not the.
And the way Jonas annoyed me so much, I was like, oh my God, please don't be the main guy. Oh,
he was just very eager, and I felt like he read younger. And maybe this is because we're like we're in our 30s. So when characters read younger and you're not expecting them to be younger, they just sound immature. And Jonas is just very eager and very open and very willing. And, you know, which we love that in an actual guy. But if I'm reading on a book, you better be brooding. And Ray was brooding. And he was there was a lot of tension there. Yes, very grumpy. So even though he's the one that called her Sunshine, so we have our Grumpy and Sunshine characters. Yes. So yeah, I just love how he empowered her and empowers the people around him, and it doesn't separate gender. He doesn't separate gender, and it just shows more with the Viking culture and like this whole Nordic culture. So yeah, that was my favorite. It was also action packed, you know, lots of tension, lots of is she gonna die?
Yeah, because she like almost dies. Like it's really close. It's not like it's he doesn't wait. He waits till like the thing already jumped, and like did she get it? Like, he was like, oh, I'll just let it bite her and then I'll figure it out, I guess. Like he didn't like, there was no sense of urgency.
He had control,
and even she was like, what the fuck? Like you didn't even like come. Like why did you wait so long? And he's like, oh, I just figured you had it. Like what? She's like,
he had control.
You did? Yeah. Oh yeah, that was definitely a great scene. I love that scene. It was definitely up there for me of like favorite scenes, but I was desperately waiting for the moment of the two plot lines for Skreda and Scylla to like reconnect again, and her to have that moment. And like two things happen there. She finds out more about her Galdra, which she doesn't know anything about. And then she also has that moment with Skreda that needed to occur that kind of moves the plot forward. But I agree, the vampire one with the vampire deer was one of my favorites as well. If you go to Demi Winters' website, she has a picture of vampire deer that an artist drew, and the rendering is terrifying. So yeah, go check that out. I would agree with you that is also another great point of the story, and where we have another piece that drives it there. Okay, so who was your favorite character and your least favorite character? What secondary characters stood out to you most and why?
I feel like obviously people are going to pick like the main FMC as a favorite character because you get most of her point of view, but Ray was honestly my favorite character. I enjoyed reading the complexity of his nature, and it And maybe it's because in Kingdom of Claw we get a lot more of that. So I liked seeing that, how he kind of plays us flat at first, and there's just something deeper there. And I just like the grumpy brooding person. No, that's just me. That is my fault, I guess. So I just enjoyed how his character line went, and the fact that he comes back for her. He tells his crew, go finish the mission. You guys can go without me. We're missing one of our own. And the way that he claims her as one of his own and goes back for her. And when he returned, I'm like, yes. I was like, yeah, no, I was so happy when he came back to rescue her. Not rescue her, but like, help her out. Because she's not like a damsel in distress at this point. She's still coming into her power, but she's not a damsel. Yeah. I mean, she just killed Greta. So she can handle her own, but he comes back for her to help her. And then they go off on their own storyline in Kingdom of Claw. But yeah, the fact that he came back for her. So yeah, he's my favorite. And then I know we have the same secondary character, Hecla. She's just a badass. She had her arm cut off by her husband, piece of shit. And the way she's telling the story to Scylla, how like they're sharing this intimate moment, and how she comes from this trauma where she was just abused, and she could have easily just like been left to die. Like she could have just like gave into that. And she's like, no, my whole storyline is rising up and going back to him and beating the shit out of him, so he knows what he did to me and how he has no power over me anymore. And I thought that storyline just so powerful, especially for women who've been through DV or who've experienced any sort of trauma where someone abused or took advantage of or any of that, and just empowering them. And it's in such a short exchange too. And I feel like a lot of it, you're kind of focused on Scylla, how Scylla, she feels bad because she's lying about herself. But if you get rid of that storyline and you're just focusing on what Hecla is saying, Demi Winters is just really empowering women, and to not let people treat you like shit. And if that happens, that's not your whole story. You can still come back from that, and you can still, overcome and be your own hero in that. So I think that's like what's really important with Hecla and her storyline. Plus, she's funny as fuck. So
she is. She's fucking sarcastic and hilarious, and she doesn't take anything from anyone.
She doesn't take shit.
Awesome.
Of course not.
No, she doesn't. So there isn't a picture of her on the website, but because that's what I was looking for, and I was trying to find if there was going to be a picture of her. But I also liked Sigrun, who is another female side character, and she was burned in a fire, and she only communicates using sign language. And again, this talks to like, who are these characters like that Demi Winters has brought up who are still incredible badasses, and Sigrun is one of them. She's also fucking hilarious because they sign and she says the most sarcastic things. But the way that the entire Blood Axe crew can also sign to communicate with her was so cool. I thought that element of inclusivity of like, it's not just like, oh, we just have Sigrun and she can't like talk to anyone because now she only signs. Like, no, she's a badass fucking warrior who had something horrific happen to her. She overcame it. And she's a member of this Blood Axe crew the same way that Hecla with one arm is a member, the same way that, Rainier, who is, Ray, Axe Eyes, is also a member. And Ilias and Jonas, who are the brothers who are already badass warriors, like they're all in the same Gunner, Fire Fist, who's obsessed with Hecla. They're all the same, like in the same dynamic. And the Blood Axe crew, the dynamic of who they are and how diverse they are as characters was such a fun way to like read something refreshing and new. I think that's, if you look back at older, I mean, one of the biggest critiques of ACOTAR, we've talked about this before in general, is that it lacks true diversity. There's not enough diversity in it for people. And I don't think you could ever say that about this series. The Ashen series has there's so much diversity and inclusivity in these books, and it continues as you continue to read the series once we find out more about Scylla's sister and the things that she's gone through and what she has as well. It just continues, and Demi Winters writes this very, very well. So my favorite side character was Sigrun because I was just shocked by her. I also loved Hekla, but I don't consider her a side character because your girl gets her own novella,
Right.
2.5. So technically, we get a lot more of her. And when you read that, I think you're going to love her even more because she's just freaking awesome.
It's right downloaded.
But yeah, exactly. It's great. And so again, the names of the books. So if you go on to Demi Winters' website, she has her books there. But you also have like artwork, the map, all that thing, the things there. It looks like there's only 1 through 5, but there is a 2.5 that's a novella. And it kind of reminded me of how Carissa Broadbent has written her Crowns of Nyaxia series, where there's a couple novellas in there that aren't necessarily required, but you absolutely should read them because they will help. One other thing that Demi Winters does for each book, too, is she gives you a recap of the previous book. And I thought that was really cool. So she gives you like, hey, here's what happened in case you forgot at the beginning of each book. And she's like, here's all the stuff that went on because so much has happened. And you're like, dang, what happened? I forget. And she gives you like that full recap, and then the number of creatures we get, like all that. I love that she gives you that recap.
That shows that she writes with intention of the reader. She yes, obviously she's writing her story, but the fact that, oftentimes we read a book and then we have to wait a year or two for the next book to come out. And you know how many books we've read since then? And I would rather read
Which is true here.
Recap. Yeah. I would rather read a recap from the author versus a recap of, let me look up a summary of what someone else says, what happened in the book and kind of jog my memory. But no, she has intentionality and she puts the reader first when she's, thinking about her writing. So I love that aspect of that. So now we're going to switch to, we're still going to be in characters, but I think a very important thing that happens is Jonas. So Jonas, this is where Scylla and Jonas, they have a relationship. They ended up fucking, and then they go into this battle where Ilias protects Scylla and dies, and Jonas is just devastated. And from there on, he has his villain era, and he basically sees red. And now revenge is like his driving point here. So obviously, from that moment where he decides, someone needs to pay for this, so I'm gonna make it Scylla. Do you think his actions are understandable, forgivable, or neither? I know forgiving. We are not a second chance person.
No, they're not forgivable in my mind.
Okay.
Because I read all the books till now, but also understandable. Initially, he's grieving, and grief is extremely complex. And I think that he doesn't know how to grapple with this, and he feels his own shame for the relationship he developed with Scylla. And I don't think it has anything actually to do with Scylla, but he thinks like, if I hadn't done this, then my brother wouldn't have felt the need to like protect her, which is all untrue anyway.
Right.
He would have, regardless of whether there was a romantic relationship between the two of them or not, his brother would have done the same thing. He would have made the same choice. So it doesn't make any difference as to why that happened. It also, him feeling like, oh, well, Jonas he doesn't want to become parts of his own family that have harmed him and his brother. He feels a relationship, there's a very strong connection to himself and his brother in terms of where he feels like he needs to keep that family together, and that bond is really important to him. And I feel like that's where it's guilt. So that's where it's understandable. The reason he's so angry, because angry, and this is like, you learn this in therapy for those who go, but therapy talks about how anger is the first emotion, right? So it's like an iceberg. So Jonas is very much experiencing anger, but anger is never alone. There's always a different element that is another emotion that's tied to anger. And for him, it's guilt, and it's the feeling of trying to work through grieving. And he doesn't have the emotional intelligence to do that. And I think that's where he's just going to struggle. And we're going to see that firsthand of how he's going to struggle with his own ways of trying to deal with this huge impact that he feels incredibly guilty for. So, to a point. Is he very humanly flawed, which I love to read, by the way? Absolutely. Yeah. I think his points of view are so incredibly deliberate by Demi Winters, and I think she does an excellent job going down this road of what's your primary emotion? Okay, it's anger. He's gonna feed all the way into that. He's just gonna be fucking pissed, because being pissed is super easy. It's the easy thing to do, is to be really pissed.
Right.
Blame everyone else. Be fucking pissed. That's an easy way versus let me sit with this guilt. Let me walk through why I might be feeling like this. Nobody wants to do that.
No. What is accountability? We don't like accountability.
Yeah.
No, and one thing that I didn't get, so the whole Blood X crew, this is, Demi Winters writes this idea of found family. And that's what the Blood X crew is. Like, these are not orphans, but I guess orphans of society, because they don't, aspects of their family, there's death or betrayal. And so they've created a family of their own. And the way that he didn't lean on them if I were him, obviously, I'm not some badass Viking guy, but I would think that he would lean on his family more, and he didn't. And I know, in book 2, Ray mentions that he tried to, he tried to say this is not the road that you want to go down, but that's it. And then he just leaves, and I know that's his blood brother. So obviously there's gonna be more of an attachment there, but he didn't lean on anyone else in the Blood X crew and just I'm just gonna go solo. And the way that bothered me, especially when you're grieving, and people handle griefs on all different types of levels, but you should lean on the people surrounding you that care about you. But he was just so
But it begs the
angry.
question, who has been the person he could? Who has been that person? And it's his brother.
Right.
So Jonas didn't have any other family to lean on. Even if the Blood Axe crew is them, his family growing up were not reliable people to lean on. So I can think of him as a character that just doesn't have the coping skills to deal with a loss of this magnitude.
Again, he's young.
All the other loss. Right. But yeah, I mean, you have Hecla, who is a victim of domestic violence, who doesn't fit a mold anywhere. Yeah, warriors are equally important here, but Hecla is an anomaly in this world as well. Her being this badass warrior that doesn't take any BS and doesn't have an arm. But, there's, again, talking about Galdra and the magic system here, there's also like magic where the arm, which was really cool, the arm is like custom to her and
it's like steampunk
moves as a real arm. Yes,
yeah.
Very steampunk-esque. It was pretty cool. And you see other like mentions of this, but to your point, yeah, he just dips, and we're gonna have to live with that. And I think it goes to the next question we have here about villains and whether people are purely evil and what creates a quote villain arc. And I think that no one's gonna start out evil. We even saw that when we did Anathema, right? Even when we did that book series, right? There's every series that we read about when there's a villain, God, we might even see Xaden go into his villain era in Fourth Wing here in the next book. Like, things might get dark. He might become a straight up villain coming up soon. I mean, we don't even know. We don't even know where those last 12 hours went for Violet. That's what I'm trying to figure out. But
I think that's definitely. I think we're past that. And Rebecca Yarros, I know we're totally off the rails right now. But Rebecca Yarros,
station.
She's even said and had songs and because she's such an Easter egger. And it's he's in for his villain era, but he didn't, again, to your point where this is the train was going, is he didn't start out as a villain. He had pure intentions. But with Jonas, I don't like, because he's in his villain era, like starting in this book
No,
and goes into
this
the
is
next book.
emotional for him.
This
Yes.
isn't we had good intentions and it turned
Guilt-driven.
bad. It's something bad happened and we don't know how to deal with it. This is why
Correct.
therapy is
We
important.
don't have the coping skills. Right.
Therapy is
Jonas
important.
is the reason why therapy is important, because he literally doesn't have the emotional coping skills to deal with this, and instead it's blame everyone else. I don't want to sit with my my guilt and my grief and have to go through that. So I'm just going to be mad. I'm just going to be pissed and blame Scylla for the wrongs that she's done to me. If it wasn't for her, he would be alive, and all of this. And it's just
Scylla has faults too. She literally lied to all of them. It was to protect herself, right? Because survival and fear are like a big aspect of this book as well. Those are key themes that Demi Winters writes on. And she does feel guilt for doing those things like throughout the book, because she realizes she's building these relationships with these people and she's concealing big parts of her identity. That is putting them in danger too. Like, it's not just like,
correct.
I'm going to keep my identity hidden and it's no big deal. Like, she's literally, the queen is trying to kill her and she's putting them in danger by doing
mark on her back.
Yeah. So she has her faults, and it is bad that she lied to them. And Jonas's
Ray
anger in that, and Ray,
that.
Ray's anger, and those are valid. Those are valid points. So, but the way Ray, and this is where you can tell the age is very different between Jonas and with Ray.
Yeah.
That he attempts to listen. And this is where we get in Kingdom and Claw. Like, he tries to understand and rationalize, whereas Jonas kind of paints his own narrative. And that's where he continues to go down, as we see in the next book, which I'm very excited to talk about the next book. We've been mentioning this book sets up so well for the next book, because I feel like it's just a continuation. Like, even though they're two separate books, the storyline, like, there isn't a gap. The storyline just kind of picks up and just goes.
No.
Right where we take off.
Kingdom of Claw, like, flow right into each other, And then Roots of Darkness pick up right where Kingdom of Claw kind of segues. Yeah. And then Kingdom of Claw picks up, Dawn of the North, book 3, picks up right where Kingdom of Claw for a different storyline. But the storyline in Roots of Darkness that follow Hecla is a different, very important, different part of it as well. But they're all really good. So I'm excited for you to get through Kingdom of Claw. The one thing I will say is that because they're not super spicy forward and they're slower burns, you don't get that like breakup of the spice, and that slow burn can be we're not Glow of the Everflame slow. Okay. Glow of the Everflame, that series. That
was like 3 books, right? Slow. Didn't it take like 3 books?
Yeah.
For them to,
I don't, God, it was a while. Yeah, because we're on book 4. And I don't know that they still actually hooked up yet in full. I'm trying to remember.
That's like the Guild series,
that was like a year ago that I read
the Guild
one.
series.
The Guild series is not slow.
No,
but it's spicy
with
out
the
of the
main
gate.
guy.
I mean, it opens with like a.
But that spice is not. No. That's not the good spice. The slow burn with.
Yeah, that's true. That's dramatic spice.
That's that's not the spice we like reading. The spice we enjoy reading, that was slow burn, because it took her like more than a book to get with. Fuck, I forgot his name. Slade. Slade. To me, Slade, Zayden. Yeah. So it took a whole book to get with Slade. So that's slow burn,
Sure.
Yeah. No, this is slow. I texted you an image.
You did text me that. You're like, girl. And I was like, listen, you're going to have to wait. You're just going to have to wait.
Sid the Sloth. Slow. So that wraps our review of Road of Bones. And now we're going to go into our Down the Rabbit Hole segment. So Danny, hit us with the topic for today. What's our bookish rant?
Yes. So we don't really have a rant today. We're going to do like a really interesting thing about Down the Rabbit Hole that's kind of tied to Disney and also tied to history. So we're going to talk about it. So I know you have been on Epcot Spaceship Earth, yes?
Yes,
the
many
Epcot
times.
ball, the ball itself. Okay, so for those who've been on it, it takes you through, a gentle journey of time is how it's described of mankind's technological advances, right?
Mhm.
Well, there's a piece of this that talks about the written word and like books and how we started to read and when the first libraries were introduced. And that got me thinking.
And how they burned.
Well, because of the Romans, but
Yep.
that's another thing. We're going to talk first about how that got me interesting and down the rabbit hole. And I was like, it'd be really cool if we did a down the rabbit hole subject, like thing about the origins of the libraries here in the US and like what's our largest library, because libraries are publicly funded and it's part of, I'm going to do a different down the rabbit hole section as to why libraries are publicly funded. And that's a whole different segment on how they're funded and what's important there. But today we're going to talk about what Spaceship Earth talks about, which is that libraries originally this is from Britannica, so you guys can all look this up on your own time, should you desire, it is true, the ancient world, considering the Egyptians and those started Assyrian clay tablets in 627 BC is around the time that we started to catalog ourselves and truly keep manuscripts and things like that. Of course, a lot of this was burned, but you have a lot of things that started in Asia, the Chinese Empire, throughout history. It was really fascinating. But who do you think we bought the books from in the largest U.S. library? Who do you think was the originator that we bought books from for our largest library?
Interesting. I'm just gonna guess a country.
Yeah.
I would have to. Well,
it's not a country.
Back,
it's a person.
It's a person.
Yeah.
Huh.
First of all, what is the largest? Do you know the largest?
I don't know the largest in the.
Okay, that's okay. This is a good.
Would it be the Library of Congress?
It is the Library of Congress in D.C. Look at you.
There we go.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's the Library of Congress in D.C. It's the largest one in the U.S. It's massive. It's really incredible. People get married there. Like, it's gorgeous. Yeah. If you haven't looked up pictures of Library of Congress in D.C., you've been? Have you been to the Library of Congress?
Yeah. I remember I worked in D.C.
I know, but I mean, tell us more.
Yeah. No, it's beautiful. There's a lot of what I like. Okay, so this is where you can actually see like the archives and you can see the Declaration of Independence. It has it like all like you can't touch it. Like that thing's thick. The bulletproof glass is thick, and it's like it's beautiful. I mean, obviously, it's every girl's dream to go through a library that big, and and there's like tunnels like to go there too, like because obviously there's a mall and there's actually like a tunnel system that works that you can go there too from the other side of the mall. So it's actually pretty intricate over there. So the Library of Congress, I feel like I'm in history class. I would think it was built in the 1800s.
Yes.
I don't know.
1800 to be exact.
Oh, okay.
1800. Yeah. The library was founded in 1800.
My husband would be proud. I'm like federal this trivia.
There you go. Oldest federal cultural institution in our nation. So pretty cool that the Library of Congress is our oldest thing. It goes to show that how much we value as a country and a culture our libraries and how important they are and how they should continue to be regardless of anyone who says otherwise. Our library is integral to our education as a nation and the importance of reading. And I don't think anyone who listens to this needs to know that lesson. I think anyone who's listening to us already knows that. But they actually bought.
Well, wait, I didn't answer. Hold on, wait. Let me think, because I'm 2 for 2. I need to figure out. I would assume that was bought from a person.
Wait, let me ask one question.
Okay.
Let me ask you this question.
Okay.
First of all, a section of the library was burned by this group in 1814. Okay. And then this other personal archive of a different person was purchased to replace this. So first question, who burned it? Second question, whose did we buy?
I don't know. My initial thought was going to be like whoever the Pope was at that time. I'm probably wrong.
Interesting. Yeah, that's a great guess though.
Just because the Catholic Church, like in Europe, it controls a lot of aspects of the government, and the historical text. So yeah, I'm probably wrong with that one though.
You are, but it was a good
Yes.
guess. It was a solidly good guess. So in 1814, British troops burned part of the Capitol building. And this
Okay.
is at the time where the library was initially housed. And it destroyed a part of the core collection. And then Thomas Jefferson had part of his collection purchased by the government.
Interesting.
They bought a roughly 6,000 books from him. He had his own personal collection. Thomas Jefferson
That's
traveled a lot. He
that's
had
a
a lot. He had a
collection.
lengthy, yes, he had a lengthy
Talk about
personal
TBR. What the hell?
library. Yeah, he had 6,487 books, to be exact, that he sold to the Library of Congress that they purchased for $23, which at that time I feel like was a lot of money. Actually, let's
that
see
had to
what
be in like the
23,000.
millions.
Let's see, roughly $23,000 in today's money from 1815 is $493,175.26 roughly. So 2,000% inflation. Really?
Right. I don't know why. I
No.
felt like that it should have been more. For a big for 6,000 books, I feel like if I bought 6,000 books right now, I'd be spending a lot more money.
Maybe. Yeah. Well, it's 21 times higher today than it was at that time. So that's one interesting fact. But today's Down the Rabbit Hole, I just wanted to talk about the Library of Congress in DC. And if you haven't gone to see the Library of Congress in DC, every single working day, they add roughly 10,000 items to the collections because there's just so much data that gets like collected over time. They just have tons and tons and tons of stuff. There are hundreds of extremely rare children's books that they have as part of this collection. They just have so many wonderful things to go see. It's obviously inclusive audiovisual, performing arts collections, facts, cartography, telephone directories, comic books, scientific, technical information, all kinds of stuff. You can spend days and days and days in the Library of Congress and still never, ever be caught up because they just continue to add to it. But it's an incredible place to go. You should go check it out. Obviously, it's free to enter, and it is in DC area, and it's absolutely incredible place to go visit. So highly recommend. They have events and all kinds of things, but I wanted to talk about the Library of Congress because we're going to continue in different Down the Rabbit Hole subjects talking about our libraries and the history and importance of them. So that's one of many topics I'm sure we'll cover in Down the Rabbit Hole, but that is for today.
Awesome. Well, now it is Mystery Q&A. These questions have not been shared with either of us prior to asking.
So my household lately, we are getting caught up on Black Mirror. Have you seen this show?
I have. I haven't watched it in a very long time, but I have seen it.
Okay. So there's a number of we talked about like AI last episode, or was it 2 episodes ago? And I think there's so much like Black Mirror episodes that like tie into the idea of AI and the idea of a different level of consciousness. So I guess my question for you is, there are these like little things that they put on your temple in the Black Mirror episodes where part of your consciousness goes to this and like ties to a computer system. Would you ever put this on your head?
No.
Do I guess second question. Do you think it's realistically possible that we could get to a point where those are part of like daily use or a part of our society somehow, or something similar?
I mean, I feel like I don't want it to be part of our society in terms of, because I've seen so many movies where like anytime like technology starts taking over the brain, it's definitely not a good sign. And like the movies are all trying to get us away from that. So
it's like so many warning movies. Yeah.
I foresee scientists, because there's the whole point of like what progress is, keep moving forward. I foresee like scientists wanting to get to that point. I would never want my subconscious or my consciousness be able to be downloaded and put somewhere, because that means things can be uploaded. And that's where we get viruses. And listen, my brain's already ill. We don't need anything else in there. Like, it's not well up here. We need to keep what we have. So
honestly,
already I'm just like, how does that? It has to be like a two-way system. I don't want people uploading things into my brain, and that's when you get sleeper cells, and like all of a sudden you hear like a random word like banana bread, and then you're just killing people. So,
oh god,
that
escalated quickly. Okay,
so immediately no. I don't want anyone accessing up here. It's dark anyways, so I'm already
Okay.
traumatized. I don't need anyone else being traumatized by my what goes on up here. So,
That's
what
fair.
about
That's
you?
fair. So interesting enough, like I immediately you thought of like scientists and things like that, but I actually
Hmm.
thought of regulation and how the creators of AI, immediately after they were like done creating it, went to Capitol Hill and were like, hey, you guys need to regulate us. Hello, you guys need to regulate us. How many industries do you know? Like, do you think Marlboro cigarettes was like, hey guys, by the way, we need you to tell us to put a label on here because guess what? These cancer sticks are cancerous. Like,
Hmm.
comes don't we're creating cigarettes and we need you to tell us that, for the health of everyone, right?
Hmm.
Like nobody told, and so like for AI to be so bad, like seemingly so possibly destructive in the future that there needs to be some kind of regulation on it. I just wonder if like the thing that I'm talking about that connects to consciousness and things, I'm like, I could just foresee a company making them before they've like been regulated and just been like, here you go, like go off and try it. It's a new thing, but we're not nobody's federally said that we can do this, like sign a waiver and best of luck to you. I feel like something like that would happen way before it would be like a new product, a hip new
Yeah.
whatever. I feel like it would be like, oh, some tech startup created a way to make dreams feel like virtual reality when you wear this thing at night. You wanna give it a try and see how that is and like give it a go. And then when you wake up during the day, it like cataloged your dreams and now you can like go walk through them again when you want to do that for like a
I don't want
therapy.
to
I
do
just made
that.
this up, by the way. No, I
I don't
know,
want
but
to
I'm
do
just
that
giving
at
you an
all.
example.
I'm just saying
I'm just giving you like one.
I literally the other night I had a dream where I saw my demon, my little demon person, which is a spider hanging from my fucking ceiling, the size of my face. So
Well,
I don't
maybe
want to
like when
walk
in
there.
this, maybe you can like take them out and then like it helps you psychologically. Like, I mean, you can kill it, like kill in the dream, and then like your brain is like it's dead or something. I don't know. Look,
I
the
don't
point
know.
is I think that it would not be regulated right away, and I think
Nope.
it would cause a lot of problems.
Yep.
So I think that's
It'll be on a
a
documentary
realistic
later
path.
on about
I know,
why we should not
literally.
have done
Yeah.
this.
Yeah. You're
That
entitled to
sounds awful.
compensation if you tried this thing. Yeah, literally. Yeah. Okay.
When you go to sleep, socks or no socks? This is completely lighthearted. It's a debate whether you're neurospicy or not. If you want to wear
Oh.
socks or no socks, yeah. It's like a whole texture thing.
I will wear socks, like the longer socks, if I'm cold. Just
Okay.
because my husband will not be cold at all. And I'll wear socks in the winter when we don't put the heat, dangerous. I also don't want to be
Okay,
super
yeah.
hot. So it's like hard.
Right.
Like I don't want to be sweating, but only
Mhm.
during that time. Otherwise,
Okay.
it's a no socks. Absolutely no.
Okay.
No socks.
Yeah. Okay. Same. I feel like because of Florida, we don't it's too
Yes.
hot anyways. And if I go to sleep with like socks on, I like will peel them off with my toes at some point. Like
Yeah, I
I'll
feel
wake up in the middle of the
restricted.
night.
You feel like
Yeah.
restricted.
Yep.
Yeah.
Apparently, that is a neurospicy sign if the texture of socks on your feet bothers you when you sleep. I see all these
We,
things
I guess, need to
on
get tested or something.
I see all these things on Instagram. Like we all have some sort of tism. Honestly, there's no way. There's so many
Well, and also
indicators. I'm like,
Instagram's totally reliable and you should believe
oh yeah,
everything
for
that's on
sure,
there.
for sure,
Yeah.
absolutely. That's where I get all of my information. No sources needed.
Yeah.
Just whoever is on my
Yep.
reel.
Yeah. They must be telling the truth, right?
Yeah, for
Exactly.
sure. That's all
Jeez,
they want to do. They
Louise.
just want to
Yeah.
inform us. Okay.
Oh
So
gosh.
before we wrap up, let's talk about what's coming up next on Book Club After Dark.
Yeah. So next week we are going to be interviewing someone we've talked to before, but who is also like a huge fan of Road of Bones and may
Mhm.
or may not have been like, guys, you have to read this series. You have to read this series. And that is our good friend, but also the incredible cake artist, Natalie from Nat Just Cakes. We love Natalie so much. She's the best. We are so fortunate that she lives in the Central Florida area and we've gotten to meet her in person a number of times. She's fantastic. Her cakes are fantastic. Her cookies are fantastic. We cannot wait to have her on to talk about all that stuff, her origin story, of course, in cake making world, and all the fun things that have gone on since then. So we're looking forward to having her on. And yeah, that's our next episode.
And don't forget, we want to hear from you. If you have thoughts on Road of Bones or suggestions for future reads, drop a comment below or message us on one of our social media platforms at Book Club After Dark Pod. Show us your fan art, theories, or anything bookish you'd like to share.
Of course, and you can also visit our website, Book Club. Stay up to date on our cozy content and check out our merch.
That's all for tonight. Sleep tight, night owls. Until next time, happy reading.